So, admittedly, last time we had talked about this guy, it was in a pretty bad light. We had talked about how Vegas Golden Knights coach Bruce Cassidy called him out in public to the media and said that he needed to be better. That was a pretty entertaining video idea that garnered a lot of attention and a lot of comments from you. We had a really good discussion about this player and his season and his tendencies and everything. So when it comes to recently acquired Vegas Golden Knights forward Jack Eichel, we have ourselves a little update as to how everything has gone since then. In fact, the update comes to us via Twitter since the departure of Mark Stone from the lineup. Take a look at this tweet made by Owen Krebs since Stone went down. 9 games played, 1 point, a -8, 25 shots in 18:38 average time on ice. Now I will say, this tweet was made just moments before Jack Eichel played a game against the Minnesota Wild, wherein he had himself a goal and an assist, so you can bump those numbers up to a whole bunch more than just 1. But when it comes to Jack Eichel and his overall play thus far, it's been a really interesting sort of dynamic you could see with this guy ever since the midway part-ish of the year. Jack Eichel this season has a total of 36 points in 40 games played, on pace for 63 points in 69 games. It's a pretty good number, honestly. Like, we always knew that Eichel was a point-per-game guy. He had a career-high season of, 82 points back in 77 games played in 2018-19, captain of the Sabres' first year with the C. We know that he's talented. It's just, with a stint like this, where if you take a look at Eichel in his last few games, let's not include the Minnesota game where he had 2 points. Go back from Nashville, February 7th, all the way back to January 21st. So games against Washington, Arizona, New Jersey, New York, and then Nashville, 0 points. He then has the point against Detroit, then 0 points again against Dallas, and then against Edmonton. This stint has been a very bad sort of cold streak for Eichel after he was being a pretty consistent producer throughout November and December-ish. So when it comes to this player, I mean, the head coach calls him out, says that he needs to be better, and we had talked all this time about that specific video idea. Hey, Bruce Cassidy called out Eichel. This has never really happened before. Eichel has been praised by coaches year in and year out ever since like 2015. Remember when David Quinn was the coach of the BU Terriers back in 2015? He had an interview with NBC talking about Eichel for the draft, and he just said all these amazing things, how Eichel is just this workhorse. He's so strong, athletic, he's pristine as an athlete, and he's going to succeed in the National Hockey League. And then in Buffalo, he was the face of the franchise for a good while. Only now, in Vegas, is he being called out by the coach. And I get it, it's a Bruce Cassidy thing to see these comments made publicly. We saw this with Jake DeBrusk a lot when Cassidy was the Boston guy. But for Eichel, ever since he had been called out and ever since Mark Stone went out with an injury, he's been producing so little that it's kind of mind-blowing to think that a player of this caliber of talent can play like that. There are a lot of rumors popping around here saying, oh, the Vegas Golden Knights could get a really big name now because Mark Stone is out. This is an opportunity for them. The window is open. And then they could play him with Jack Eichel, and then Eichel could get going again. We had talked about Patrick Kane the other day, and how that trade idea might manifest itself, especially since Patrick Kane is kind of frustrated that he wasn't traded to the Rangers. We'll make a video about that tomorrow, by the way. But for Jack Eichel, just individually, it's mind-boggling to see this be the case. Now, I had been scrolling through the Our Hockey subreddit and looking at the comments made on this Twitter post, because this was posted here and a lot of people were conversing about Eichel and his cardio sessions. Seal Dodger 47, first comment here, says, the most important thing for all Sabres fans right here is to not be annoying. Grounded Edge says this, just trade for another captain, specifically Ryan O'Reilly, please. And then there are a whole bunch of replies saying, wait a minute, that'd be kind of funny having Eichel and O'Reilly on the same team at the same time. That kind of feels like a little bit of deja vu. Good for you, you're happy and healthy. One more comment thread that I wanted to read out here. Yaziwa says, maybe Buffalo wasn't the problem after all. Minor King says, we still had plenty of other problems. Jack just wasn't a solution. Uncle Orton says, yeah, us sucking was not his fault. I can look at him as a kind of Phil Kessel type player. He cannot be your best guy, and if he doesn't have all that pressure on him, he can be good, like earlier this year. And I know it really doesn't feel good to bring up the Buffalo Sabres and how good they are when you're a Vegas fan. I know I get a lot of comments and DMs sometimes saying, hey, you're like alienating Vegas fans. You're like always talking smack about Vegas, man. What are you doing? Like, I get it. Yeah, it's a pattern in all these videos. It has been for a while. However, I mean, I'm not going to go out there and say that this is a good thing. Right? Jack Eichel getting 3 points in the last 10 or so games that he's played when he needs to step up and take over the reins after Mark Stone has been removed. Not a good thing. And I think a lot of people could say that for Jack Eichel, there's sort of this reputation that's built around over the past few years now that it really kind of looks a lot more like all the stuff with Buffalo, like the quote-unquote prima donna, diva stuff that had been sort of loosely thrown around there. I mean, it's not really the kind of thing that you want to see pop up again, because now everyone's like, wait a minute, he's on a new team, team's lost their best player, and now Jack Eichel is not stepping up. They lost him too, pretty much. I'll leave you off with one more comment thread before we finalize things here. Grit Grinder says, is Eichel playing hurt? Tactical Snail says, I don't know, because he's had streaks like this for years. This one sounds pretty bad, though. And then you have this Vegas Golden Knights commenter, SRS Goblin, saying this, possibly. The entire team was just absent in January. He looked significantly better and was noticeable as a threat on the ice every time he was out there our first game back from the All-Star break, even though he didn't pot one. I'm trying to be hopeful he was just at the same slump the entire team was, but you can dig a week or two back in my comments to see if I was joining in on the dog pile. He's not been good since returning to the lineup, and was on the ice for just about every single even-strength goal against for a month. And of course, you know, just fan sentiment is not expert analysis, it's not whatever, but that's kind of what this YouTube channel is, right? I'm not really an expert on anything, I'm just a fan that looks at things and sees things, and I'm like, yeah, let's talk about that. So that's sort of why I wanted to make this video, because it's not really like a big deal, technically. I mean, it's just one small slump for one guy that has been sort of the subject of many slumps over the past few years, especially before he got traded. But at the end of the day, I thought this was a very strange topic to bring up because it's one that I feel like we've had a conversation about before. Buffalo Sabres fans, stop me if you've heard this before, but Jack Eichel is going on a pretty bad pointless streak where, according to some, he's playing frustrated and he is trying a bit too hard. It's not working for him, and he's not producing as a result. He's getting called out by the coach, and in a position where he needs to step up and be the guy, he has not done that in the slightest. Thoughts in the comment section below about Jack Eichel and the recent slump that he has had. I hope you enjoyed this Juraj 99, and bye.